Welcome to the Money Room. We appreciate y'all for tapping in. This is an educational real estate investing platform where we're going to share with the world our years of experience, knowledge, and research of us closing a bunch of deals through various real estate investor strategies where we've been successful and made a lot of money. With the purpose of this platform is for others to learn from us and be just as successful or even more successful than us with real estate investing. Right. My name is Lem, and my real estate investing strategy is mobile home investing.
I'm Marley. My real estate investing strategy is wholesaling real estate.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Ant. My real estate investment strategy is the BRRRR strategy.
All right, let's get it. What we talking about today, Ant?
All right, so in today's episode, we're going to be discussing evaluating deals and how we do that as real estate investors. So I think Molly, tell the people, I guess, like how you run your numbers, how you analyze deals.
So I think that's probably the most important factor too,
Right.
with everything. But just with wholesaling real estate, that's me finding distressed sellers that need to sell their property at a discounted rate, and I'm finding end buyers like yourself, and I'm making profit in between. You probably gonna pay a little bit more for it. I make 10, 15, 20,000.
What you say? Say it with your chest. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they heard. Say it with your chest.
So I'm finding end buyers, bro. I ain't getting all that. But look, man, so I'm running the numbers on these properties. This where a lot of wholesalers mess up.
Right.
So they locking up deals way too high and they can't sell it. So they leaving the sellers in a bad predicament. The seller thinking they about to get out, cash out on their house. The wholesaler can't sell the deal, and it give us a bad rep in the industry. So like I pride myself on running good numbers. You feel me? So when I get a lead in, the first thing I'm doing, even before I'm like really getting into the numbers, my second question with a homeowner, listen, how much you looking to get? You feel me? While I'm having that discussion with that homeowner, on my screen, I'm running numbers real briefly just to see what cash comps are selling for in that area. So systems you want to use is PropStream, PropWire, Batch. What I use personally is the MLS, right? So say I get a lead in 123 Main Street. I'm looking real quick. What's the cash comps going for in that area, right?
Right.
So say they going for $90,000 to $100,000. I know I need to get that property at like 60, 70 for me to make a good little spread. You feel me? So homeowners say they want 120. I know we in the same ballpark. It's ball game. You feel me? It's ball time. Time to really get into it and negotiate and things like that. When I'm running my numbers also, it's a couple main components, you feel me, that I want to discuss too. And this is where people mess up their numbers. When you comparing a property, like I said, say 123 Main Street came in, you want to look at the square footage of that house.
Right.
When you comparing another house, it can't be more than or less than 200 square feet. I use appraisal rules. You feel me? So like an appraiser comes to your house, the houses they going to be comparing it to is going to be 200 square feet less, 200 square feet or more. You feel me? Within a quarter mile. So in the inner city, all my houses in Philadelphia for the most part, Baltimore,
Right.
It's in a quarter mile radius, right? So that means everything is block to block. I'm also looking at cash comps in an ARV from houses that sold 3 to 6 months, because in the cycle of real estate, it's constantly changing. So you can't compare a house that sold in January to a house that sold in December of 2 years ago, because that's two different markets. You feel what I'm saying?
Got you.
So just to bring it all in perspective, say I get a lead, it came in 123 Main Street. It's a row home in Philadelphia. It's 1,200 square feet, right? So when I'm looking at my numbers, I'm seeing like houses that sold within a quarter mile, 1,000 square feet or 1,400 square feet, because it's within that range within the last 3 to 6 months. And that's how I'm coming up with my numbers real quick. And I'm analyzing my deals that way. But wholesalers is messing up because they'll compare a house, a single family house, a row home, to like a house that's totally different. It's way bigger, way more bedrooms, way more bathrooms, and the numbers is thrown all the way off, and that's how we get in a bad rep, because you stuck with that deal.
Can you speak, I guess, to the point of question of how fast you're generating numbers when you get a lead, you get an actual lead on the phone?
Yeah, so I changed up my whole little flow. I used to say they called me. I used to hit them with, let me run the numbers. I give you a call back. But what I found is as long as I can give them a little range of where I'm going to be at, or give them an offer on that first call, try to book that appointment, my success rate is way more. So
We talked about that too.
yeah, I did.
You got that game from me, actually.
I don't know. So look, and it's in the course too, which you'll probably bring up later. But like I use something called a profit calculator.
Right.
I threw that in the course, and it helped you run your numbers way smoother. So like within the profit calculator, I'm coming up with my number within like 3 minutes of me on the phone with them. I'm putting in the ARV. I'm putting in the estimated repair costs. I'm putting in what I want to make on my deal, whether it's $10, $15, $20,000, and I'm putting in and it's going to input what that buyer want to make on the back end. Like it's putting in everything. So typically my buyer want to make like 10 to 15% profit margin on flips, and stuff like that. You feel me? So this calculator is doing that. And I also included within that profit calculator in the course is going to be a rental calculator too. And I know you'll probably like this. So like it adds into like that, putting the property at 70%. Right. Minus all the renovation, this, that, and the third, and then making sure that if it's a buy and hold investor, they're able to cash out on the back end. You feel me? So I know you probably could touch on that a little bit more.
Right. How many deals would you say like you're analyzing a day?
So my goal a day is like 5 offers.
Okay.
If I can get like 5 offers a day, I'm at like a deal a week. So 5 times 5, say I'm working, you get what I'm saying, 5 days a week. I know I'm going to get 1 deal a week, and that's kind of what I'm averaging right now. So 5, you get what I'm saying? If you're doing on market, it should be at least 5 offers a day. On market, you're probably going to get like 1 deal a month with that. But since my deals is coming in inbound, that's kind of what I'm averaging, you feel me?
I got you.
Like I said, on the back end, when I'm doing like my numbers on my rentals, I'm running it where it's like the 70% rule, and that way, like an end buyer, like you can cash out at 75% with the bank. You know what I'm saying?
All right. So, and I guess I'll go from there, right? So, in regards to the 70% rule, right? Typically, when I'm analyzing my numbers with the BRRRR method, right? For a slight recap for the audience, the BRRRR model or BRRRR strategy, rather, right, is essentially buying a property, usually below market rate that needs some repairs, right? Doing some renovations, renting the property out, refinancing it, and then the last R's repeat. In regards to the 70% rule, what I'm usually looking for is 70% of the ARV. That's usually what I typically want to have invested into a property, right? And that's usually the number I'm looking for. So for the audience, ARV is at the repair value, and that's essentially what the property will be worth after it's fully been remodeled or repaired, right? So for an example, if the property is worth, let's say, 50,000, I put 50,000 and it's not worth 200,000, right? The ARV would be 200,000, and I want to have 70% roughly invested into the property, which would probably put me around 140.
Okay.
Molly kind of touched on this in the beginning. In regards to list price, we're never trying to, just because the property's listed at a certain number doesn't mean we're going to buy it at that number.
Of course.
Right? It's all about the art of negotiation and understanding what I should be paying for it as an investor.
And you're not scared to
Right.
make that offer too.
A lot of times people, especially like in the market now where it's like kind of low on inventory, a lot of people get emotional and they'll overpay or overbid for properties based off the numbers, which you should never do, right?
For sure.
So why 70%? Because I know people used to be like, buy 75%. Why you buying at 70%?
So I buy at 70% typically with the understanding that remaining 5% between 70 and 75% is going to handle my closing costs when I refinance.
Gotcha.
Right? So 70%, when you run your numbers, you always want to kind of err on the conservative side. And I always run from my ARVs on the lower side, right? So if I run my numbers in my ARV, let's say it's 250, I usually like to take an extra $10,000 to $15,000 off of that ARV, right? So that would put me kind of like at 240 to 235. And then if the property appraises for the larger number, now I'm in a better position in regards to leverage. You always want to take the low end on the ARVs rather than the high.
So you conservative when you running your numbers?
Always. I'm always conservative in regards to ARVs. In regards to my renovations that I'm factoring into my budget, I'll always add a contingency budget of an extra, 10 to 15,000. And then when my rent rolls, I'm always, when I run those numbers, I'm always taking the lower ends of rents. Right? If you run your numbers on the low side, if they perform better or they do better, then, right, your margins are better on the back end.
So when a wholesaler send you a say I send you a deal, right?
Right.
And I'm saying the ARV 275. Are you checking your own numbers, or you kind of trusting the wholesaler? I'm sending you some comps too. You get what I'm saying? So,
So the answer to your question is I'm never trusting the wholesaler, right? You always trust but verify. So initially what I would do in regards to your question is I would send that deal out to different sources or different people in my team. Right? So initially when I started investing, my team consists of, and still does consist of, a property manager, and I usually have 2 or 3 realtors that I have a good relationship with. I would take that initial deal, like you said, 123 Main Street, and I will call my property manager, who's also a realtor, right? And I'll ask her to run the numbers and let her know, and ask her what the ARV is. I would never more or less communicate the numbers that you gave to me. I kind of just would give her that deal and let her generate an ARV with an unbiased opinion. And I would do the same thing with the realtors that I knew that I had close relationships with. So if you're telling me that deal is worth $250 and she comes back, like say at $230, and then somebody comes back at $250 and the last person comes at $240, I know we're kind of in the same ballpark. Versus like if someone comes back and says, hey, like this house is worth $150 on the ARV, then now it's a little problematic.
Right. And of course, when you're looking at the ARVs, you're taking all of these things into consideration when you're giving your offers. So when you know the highest amount that you're willing to pay for a home, I know that when you're giving your offers, you're definitely going below that number, giving yourself some room to negotiate up to that number, right?
Yeah, always. So if somebody shopping a deal, let's say at 90,000, or even if it's on the MLS at 90,000, I might initially come into the offer, especially because I'm offering cash, maybe 80, 82,000, and then like Lim said, like work my way up to like that 85, maybe 90 mark.
Yeah.
And then in regards to, I guess, what I was getting at with the CMAs, right? I would ask for CMAs on ARVs as well as rent, right? Because in inner city areas, based off your finishes, that's going to generate different amounts of rent, right? So you may have a property based off of square footage and bedroom and bath size. They may range anywhere, let's say, from 2,000 to 2,500, just based off your finishes.
Right.
So when I would ask for those analysis or them CMAs, which is pretty much like a comparative market analysis, I would ask for both ARVs or resales as well as rent ones.
So that's so look, going to what you do, Lim, because like we got a bunch of information. Like I got mad systems I'm looking for when I'm running my cash flows. I'm running my ARV. I'm sending it to different buyers, asking them where they might buy a house at. Like I got a lot of resources as far as like where I'm getting my numbers from. You feel me? Rehab costs, like a bunch of calculators. I know you a little different with how you running your numbers, right?
All right, for sure. Well, first, let me give y'all, if y'all not familiar, a background on what mobile home investing is, right? So mobile home investing is basically buying and selling mobile homes for a profit, right? And mobile homes, they're typically less expensive than traditional real estate. Mobile homes are affordable residential homes that are built inside a factory. And once they're finished being built, they're delivered on a large flatbed truck and they're set on land somewhere where they stay, right? And typically once they're set on land somewhere, they stay there just because it's so expensive to move the home after that, right? So they're called mobile homes because you can literally pick them up and move them to another location. So if your mobile home is in a mobile home park, you own the mobile home, you don't own the land that the home sits on. Right. The land that the home sits on is called a lot. And to have your mobile home sitting on that lot, you have to pay lot rent every month. And that lot rent amount could vary from place to place or park to park, depending on where you at, right? So for me, when I'm analyzing a deal, the first part that I'm looking at is how much, I could potentially sell a home for cash, right? And like you said, with mobile home investing, it's not as simple, as when, you're just looking at comps and stuff like that. With mobile home investing, it's going to take, a little bit of a market research for knowing what's going on, because most mobile homes are sold on cash, hand-in-hand transactions. So those transactions aren't recorded. So you can't go on the internet and find the amount that, this mobile home just sold for cash in your area. So to get that number, you're going to have to do some market research, and that's just going to call for being in the field talking to sellers, seeing how much they're selling their home for, talking to buyers, seeing how much they actually bought the home for, talking to park managers, seeing, their insight, and talking to other people in these communities so you can know a general idea of what certain mobile homes are selling for cash.
So how you coming up with say a homeowner call you, since you did your market research, say you get a deal in Dover, what is just based off deals you already done in Dover or wherever that park is, or where you feeling comfortable at? Like, how you coming up with the numbers?
Just from me being in the field, bro, and doing research, when I hear of a home that sells, I'm tracking that price. Like, I'm writing that down. When I see a house that's sold, I'm tracking that down. Like, I'm keeping track of everything that's going on, in my market, give or take. Talking to people as well too. Like, when you're in the field, you got a lot of different resources. You meet people. Okay. So, and you just keeping track of, things that, everything. You're not going to know everything off the jump, but after a while, you tend to get a pretty general idea of what stuff is selling for.
Okay.
All right.
So, once I figure out, what I could potentially sell a home for cash, after that, I start adding up the expenses that's gonna occur while I have the home. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add up 2 months of lot rent off the jump. Just because, when you have a mobile home in a mobile home park, you're responsible for that lot rent for as long as you have the home. And generally, I'm selling mobile homes within 30 days or less. But depending on, the time and the part of the month that I get the mobile home, I might end up paying 2 months lot rent. And it also just leaves me, time for error. Something might happen and something might take longer than possible, or it might take longer to sell than what I thought of. I already have that 2 months, factored in to my budget. And with mobile home investing, lot rent can, vary from park to park, from area to area. So it's important to know what the lot rent is in that park when you're looking into purchasing a deal.
Lim, I'm glad you spoke to the point of holding costs, because that's something I didn't mention, I guess,
right.
my deal analysis, which plays a big part. Whenever you acquire any sort of real estate, whether you're flipping mobile homes, you're flipping traditional homes, or even with the BRRRR model, you have to pay what's called carrying costs, right?
Right.
So in Lim's example, or Lim's business model, he's paying, the ground rent or the lot rent, right, for those properties, versus like for me, I have to pay, usually typically a hard money lender, unless I'm just buying the property in straight out cash, but I have to pay him for the money that I borrow, essentially, until that property is renovated and now is I cannot rent it.
Right.
I guess I have a follow-up question for you though. How much does the year of the mobile home, I guess, play into like the ARVs when you're generating them?
It does. Like it definitely plays a factor, because mobile homes, they come with a manufacturer year. And since they come with a manufacturer year, the older that the home gets, it does depreciate, with value and time. So when you're looking at mobile homes and you're looking at what, they can sell for in your area, you are definitely taking note of what the home looks like, the year, the day. And a lot of times you can tell an older mobile home or a newer mobile home just by looking at it, right?
So is that one of the is that like, to Molly's point, like when you're speaking with a seller, is that like the first question you ask is what year is the mobile home?
Yeah, that's one of the first questions I'm asking, what year is the mobile home, right? And a lot of times it's some things like, I'll give y'all some quick game right here. Like, if a mobile home is before the 1970s, early 1970s, they usually have like a flat roof, right? And then once they're like late 1970s, 1980s, they usually have that pitch roof. And that's something that you can tell just off the jump from looking at, a mobile home right there.
So when you, just real quick on costs or like your numbers, when you put together like your numbers that you make, and I know like, so like when I got like my calculator and run the numbers real quick for a flipper or something, right? So say I'm about to lock up a deal, I know that they want to make at least 10% profit margin,
right?
10 to 15% profit margin on their deals.
At least.
So when you running your numbers, you got like a set. All right, cool. I baked in this amount of rehab costs. I need to make sure I make this amount of money on
Right.
the
So
back end.
all right. So I'm gonna get to that. Right. So I just said the next thing I do is add up expenses. Right. So I add up. I add on 2 months lot rent. Right. After that, I start adding up. The expenses that I'm gonna have to pay for repair costs. So with mobile home investing, I'm looking to fix up the homes the most efficient way possible. Right. People live in mobile homes because they're affordable, not because they're luxury. So I need to keep it to that affordable standard. So, I'm fixing them up the most affordable way possible. You know what I'm saying? So, and typically most mobile homes have the same repairs over and over again. Like they all have the same common repairs. So I can generally estimate how much, my rehab is going to be just by looking at the mobile home. So as new investors, it's important for you to get a lot of quotes and talk to a lot of different people on, that can do the repairs to your homes. And we're using handymen, not contractors. That's something to take note of, just so that you can know the difference between a good price and a bad price. And then this is information that you need to learn early on, because you're going to take this information and carry it on into your next projects. So after I have all my expenses added up, after that, I'm looking at the price that I need to purchase a home at to make at least a 10K profit. And that, that answers your questions right there. And I say at least a 10K profit minimum, just because, you might come across some unexpected expenses, or the home just might not sell for as much as you thought it would sell for. So that leaves you room to still make some profit on the deal, and you're not coming too close to losing any money, or the deal's not too skinny or anything like that. Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're doing renovations, you gotta have some contingency funds available, whether it's
For
cash
sure.
or credit, just in case things happen. Like you said, roofs, with hot water heater. There's a lot of different things, systems, and the mechanicals that you kind of want to account for
Right.
in that contingency budget.
Right. So to give you an example, if you're looking at what you could potentially sell a home for, so if conservatively it can sell for around $20,000, you're looking at your expenses and you feel like your expenses might be around $5,000. That means that you need to not pay more than $5,000 for the home.
Okay.
Right. That's the max that you can pay for the home. And of course, when you're putting your offers in, you're going to offer way lower than that $5,000, because it leaves you room to negotiate up if the seller, gives you a little pushback on your offer.
Got it. All right. I guess I kind of want to transition the conversation into like exit strategy. So I know, Lim, you're kind of convinced you in the fact that like you're trying to buy low and sell high.
For sure.
But,
Fix and flips. That's all I'm doing.
Molly, what would you say like in regards to exit strategies? I know you've done a bunch of different creative deals with wholesaling. What would you say, I guess, like what's your take on different type of exit strategies?
So my I'm always wholesale. That's my first. Like
Right.
if I can't wholesale it, then I kind of leave it alone. Like I don't do too much creative deals. I honestly think wholesalers should leave creative deals alone, because if your buyer defaults on it, like the seller's going to remember you. You get what
Okay.
I'm saying? Like they don't meet the buyer until the last step of the way. So it give them a bad taste in your mouth. I done heard of like people getting pause. I done heard of people getting like sued and stuff like that. So I stay away from them type of deals. So if I can't wholesale it, if I can't take it down myself, because I do buy like RM1 properties in Philly, and I'm about to start getting into flipping as well. So those primarily my exit strategies, but it's always wholesale first. Like I like quick money, 30 days or less. You know what I mean? A flip, if I'm gonna take it down, it's probably gonna be in like the suburbs where I'm still in and out. Put it on the market within 60 to 90 days. If I'm gonna take it down myself, as far as like a rehab in Philly that I'm gonna buy and hold, same timeline, but it's got to be R1. I got to be able to turn that into a duplex or multifamily. So that's primarily my only exit strategies with my stuff.
Okay. And that reputation is important.
Yeah, bro. Reps in like this. Every year I want to buy a certain amount, and then like I said, I'm about to start flipping too. So I want to start flipping a certain amount, and then just keep adding on the whole
For sure.
every month. You feel me?
And getting your numbers right and knowing what you're doing is important, because that reputation is definitely important with buyers. You know, buyers, there's a lot of people that, you know, say they're wholesalers, but they don't come, you know, with good deals. But if your numbers are on point, I'm sure that buyers, they're going to you first.
Bro.
Just because they know you know what you're doing, the deal's going to close, the numbers are correct, and you know, we on to the next.
Yeah, it makes the process a lot better.
For sure.
I would say in regards to exit strategies, right? Like the Burr strategies, obviously like my primary function, but like house flipping, right? That's something I recently got into. In regards to flips, I would say no one should ever buy a flip that they don't mind burring or holding. Right? That's usually you want to have more than one exit strategy in a property, because things can go left, the market could shift on you, right? But if it's a good deal initially, and let's say the market does turn on you in regards to like a flip, being able to like refinance and, you know, get some cash flow until the market trends up is always a good alternative.
Would you ever like hold a mobile home, or is yours always the kind of quick little flip?
I don't hold them because I mean, the whole purpose of, you know, holding something, even with you, and like you're burning, like you're making some cash flow now.
Correct.
But the whole purpose of it is that, you know, later down the line, you're building up some equity and
Appreciation.
it's appreciating, and then, you know, you can sell it for more later. Your cash flow will get greater later. But with mobile homes, you know, years down the line, like they depreciate with value. So that's not something that I want to pass down to the next generation. You know, the next generation, you know, I'll pass them down a park because that's the land. You know, they're gonna own it. You know, that's gonna appreciate with
That's
value.
the question, is if he would buy a park.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, of course.
I should have asked that
Of course.
differently.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not holding them. I'm just, I'm flipping them now. You know, I'm forcing, as much equity into it as I can, and I'm gonna sell it at that top dollar to make the most profit.
Buy low and sell high. That's the
Buy low and
that's the
sell
name.
high. That's it.
For everything.
All right, so
For sure.
Lim, tell the people where they can find you at.
You can find me on Instagram at Young Lem.
I'm at Molly5.
I'm at Living Good Ant. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And in regards to if you want to seek any more information in regards to any of our real estate investment strategies, there's a course that the three of us kind of, you know, put all our gems and all our insight into. It could be found in the bio. And if you have any questions, make sure you ask us.
Definitely. And follow at the Money Room Pod. Appreciate y'all for tapping in.